Hey everyone, recently there was a question posted on the Phoenix Facebook group about changing the smoke color over time. I suggested using a Voxel Tuner and changing one of the color channels gradually. Then, use a Phoenix grid texture to read the RGB channel of the grid and use it as a mask to mix the desired colors. Apparently there was some confusion about how to do that, so here's a quick demonstration. Make a Phoenix fire and smoke grid. Create a small emitter object. A sphere will do just fine. Add a Phoenix Fire source node. Add the sphere to the source. I'll leave all of the settings at their default values. I'll just enable the RGB emission. The default color is green. I'll change it later. Inside the Phoenix grid, I'll enable the RGB channel export. And start the sim. Inside the preview rollout, the RGB channel is enabled by default, and you can see the green color in the viewport. Okay, here's the temperature channel, the smoke, and the RGB channel. I'll stop this and let me just close the borders so that the smoke doesn't leave the grid. That's better. Right, so we now have this constant green color. I'll set up a voxel tuner to modify it over time. Let's make one. And open the Conditions Editor dialog. By default, it looks at the temperature channel and activates when it is above 800 Kelvin. I don't want that. I want to check if there is any smoke inside the voxels. I'll set the channel to smoke. And I'll say, if the smoke amount is greater than 0, in other words, if there is any smoke inside the voxel, the condition will be true. Right, if the smoke is greater than 0, then I'll just disable the forces checkbox because I don't need it and I don't want to get confused by it. So if the condition is true, then change one of the color channels. Let's use the green one. Set it to 1. 1 is a white value. These values are normalized, so 1 is 255. And I'll set some delay, let's say 2 seconds. And for the source, I'll now change the emission color to black. Okay, start the simulation again. So now we have this black color emitted that turns green over a period of 2 seconds. I wanted to stop the sim, but pressed the wrong button. Excuse me. I'll pick the tuner and increase the delay to 5 seconds. Now it takes longer for the color to turn green. All right, I'll now render this. But let me add a light first. Okay, we can see the smoke. We can see the temperature that emits light. I'll go into the rendering rollout and open the volumetric options dialog. I'll disable the temperature channel rendering. I just want to see the smoke. Okay. And for the smoke color, instead of a constant color, I can switch it to read whatever's inside the exported RGB channel. Right? It starts with black smoke, which turns green with time. But the question was, what if we want to use specific colors? Well, technically, it is possible to make a tuner for each channel and modify them, but it will be a cumbersome setup, and it can quickly get out of hand. Instead, I'll open the material editor and get a Phoenix grid texture. I need to specify the grid that the data will be read from. There's only this one, so I'll press OK. And for the channel source, I'll pick grid RGB. This is what this texture will be reading. Now, instead of reading the RGB directly, I'll switch this to texture. And I'll plug the grid texture into the slot. Now we should get exactly the same result. Apparently not. I did something wrong. Maybe the coordinates should be set to world XYZ. Shouldn't matter, but let's just double check. Nope, that's not it. It seems like I failed to pick the grid here. Yeah, there you go. Now, it doesn't matter if I use the RGB data directly or pass it through a texture. I should get the same result. But still not the colors that I want. So let me get a V-Ray color node. Choose some funky greenish color. Make a copy. Pick another color. I need to combine these two, and a composite map will do the trick. I'll plug this one on the first layer. Make a second layer. Plug the other color here. And I'll use this Phoenix texture as a mask. But before I do that, I'll get a color correction node. And set the red and the blue channels to be the same as the green one. That should give me a black and white mask. Let's check it out. Worked just fine. We have the mask. Stick it into the mask slot. Now get the combined texture and use it as a color source for the smoke. Okay, perfect. I'll try to make the transition sharper. Set the delay to 1 second. Yup, it happens a lot sooner now. But what if I want the transition to start when the smoke is further away from the sphere? I can open the condition editor once again, and I can say I want this to be true for the tuner to activate, but also press the AND button. I also want the transition to happen within the voxels that are at a given distance to this object, the sphere. I want the distance to be greater than, let's say, 80 voxels. So this is the size of the voxels. 80 voxels away from the sphere, the transition should start happening because both of these conditions will be true. And yeah, let's see if this works. And it does. 80 voxels apparently gives us that big of an area around the sphere. The transition starts happening after that. And it takes 1 second. 80 might be too much, though. Let's try 50 or, I don't know, 35 voxels maybe. And perhaps try this with no delay, just to have an instant change, right? And there it is. Just to recap, use one of the RGB channels. It doesn't matter which one. Modify it the way you want, and use it as a mask to mix your desired colors. Then use the mixed result as a source for the smoke color. And finally, perhaps you noticed this image that I used for the thumbnail of this video. The smoke has 3 distinct colors. To do this, I made an additional tuner. I changed the first one to check if the distance to the sphere is greater than 80, but less than 200 voxels. It activates within this range. The second tuner modifies the voxels that are 200 voxels away from the sphere and changes the red channel to 1. So now there's black color emitted by the source. Then the green channel becomes 1, and then the red channel becomes 1 as well. I made an additional grid texture that reads the RGB, and I could have probably used just the first one. They're reading the same data anyway, right? Yeah, I don't need this one. But then I used two separate color correction nodes. One is extracting the green channel and the other is extracting the red channel. And I use the new one as a mask again, blending in the third color. And that's pretty much it. Just a few final words. The grid texture only works with V-Ray CPU. It's not yet supported in the GPU renderer. Also, you won't be able to see it in the viewport if you enable the GPU preview. Just be aware of that. Thanks for watching. I hope that it was worthwhile. Take care and goodbye.